everyone. This is session two of our documenting your life or a life. And we're going to go over two albums, two top level albums tonight in this session. And I have some pretty cool, I was telling everybody a little bit before, I have some a new tool that I did in the last week that I'm really excited about to share with you. So one other thing, and I could have told y'all this last week and I thought about it last month, but I thought about it this time. So another little suggestion, and I know last time I said in your AI, if you're using chat or if you're using whatever you're using, I'm going to talk about Claude a lot tonight, but when you start, I have a project for each life I'm doing. So the life of Carmen, the life of Sharon, the life of John. Those are Sharon's my mom, John's my husband. And so I have a project for each one, right? So that's just one suggestion I made last week. Another little suggestion, if you use AI, it's probably already knows your voice and knows what you like. If you're new to AI, this is just a little tip so it doesn't sound AI-ish, because that's what some people don't like, right? They don't want it to sound like AI. So one thing you can do is give it is you make a voice bank, and I will send a handout on this, but basically all you do is take 3 to 5 pieces of your writing that you like. And it can be an email, it could be a journal entry, it can be anything you've written that sounds like you that you like. And you send it up there and say, this is what I want to sound like. So that's a really good thing if you're using it to help write your descriptions for your albums so it sounds like you. You want it to sound like you want it to be authentic, you want all those things. So that's one thing, a little tip to do that. It's pretty simple, and you'll hear that a lot is to build a voice bank for your AI. Okay, the next one, I think I talked about last time also. This is a little added to that is for each of my stories, I have till I'm you're never done. This isn't, and you're never done with your life story, right? But when you're really almost done, you might delete this folder out. But my very first folder in my life story is my projects, which I call my junk drawer, right? That's where I know I want to put this picture in there. I know I want this file in here, but I don't know where it goes yet. So I'm just going to put it there for now. Another tip for that is for me, I love notebooks, but let's be real, I have about five, and I'll write it in one, and then I'll put the notebook somewhere, and I can't find the notebook that I want. Okay, that's just me. I know there's some people who are great with the notebooks and keep it beside their computer and never move it. And if you're that kind of personality, that's great. That's not me, okay? Because I move my notebook, it gets lost. So what I've learned is I actually put my notes in this junk drawer in the album description. So like this is my mom's, and I put, okay, find the 1950. I have all of her yearbooks except for 1955. So I put that in there. Ask Gerald about the house on Buckhorn. So that's like ask my uncle. So if stuff comes up, so I don't forget it, because I will as soon as, I just put those notes in that junk drawer album description, right? Um, or on the second one, this is actually Kobe's album, and I was building it, and I was like, okay, I need to find his sports when he in for his teen years were water skiing, shooting sports, and rock climbing. I need to find those. I don't have time to do it right now, so I'm just going to put that in the album description. And oh, his interest during that time, politics, political camps. And so I just wrote that note to myself so that later when I come back, I will have that in my notes knowing, okay, that's what needs to go under that album. Okay. So that was another little tip for that. Okay. So I'm going to go over album 3 and 4. The first month was album 1 and 2. So one was Roots, two was Childhood. So the first 4 albums are chronological. The next month is going to be really fun, and we're going off chronological a little bit. But we'll get to that next month. But this one is teen years, and so this is what I have: the world. So it has album 3, teen years. I'm going to show you something about this teen in a minute, but the world at the time, hobbies, sports, education, milestones, adventures, what came next. And I'll talk about each of these, but that's the overall Unnested Under album three are those albums, and I'm going to show you. Okay, so for this very first one, The World at Time. So my whole vision for that is, okay, what's going on? And we had this again in childhood. We have it in teen, and then I have it again in adult. So I have it three different times. But it's like, what are the events in the world? What are the inventions during their lifetime? What are all these things? What is happening in the world around them to put context to their life? One, it's very good if you don't have a lot of photos because it tells a lot about somebody, even if you don't have photos, but it's great for people who have photos. And so I've been working with this. This is the tool that I came up with because I did it last month and then I was working on this and I'm working on several at the same time. I'm like, okay, there's got to be an easier way. So what I did was I built a prompt for you. And what that is you're going to copy and paste, and I will send this to you. I suggest Claude, which is like ChatGPT, is another AI because Claude processes the way Claude processes, I think is better. The way it researches, I think, is a little better. So that's the one I recommend. And the people that used it, Tammy Jo Smiling, she was another one of my beta testers and she loved it. It, you can use it on the free one. You do not have to pay. You do have to sign in, but you don't have to pay to use this, okay? It might, after a point in time out, may come the next day. I don't know. But you don't have to pay. And it will color code. We tested that this afternoon. Cindy did. Okay, so I'm going to step by step what you're going to do through this little, through this prompt. It's really easy. I pretty much have done all the work for you so that it will come out with something, a consistent thing every time. Okay. So first, why do I use Claude for this? It holds the whole conversation. It is able for some, at this point, it changes by next week, it could be different. At this point, it holds a longer conversation than chat. It follows the prompt structure precisely. It will go through a this prompt structure is now like I think it could be 6 page. I mean, it's pages and pages long now, y'all, because it's getting longer. Okay, so it can take all of those words and still follow what it's supposed to do. Chat sometimes, if you give it too much, it loses it. Okay, it processes better and it thinks and not just retrieves things. So you're gonna see it just does a beautiful job. Now, is it the only one out there? No. You can try the prompt in any of them and see if you have if you're attached to a different one. I just think that's just my suggestion. Okay, so the six steps of how to use it is copy and paste the entire thing. Select all, copy and paste the entire thing in there. Okay. Next, it's going to ask you some questions. Now, there's two different ways it does this. I don't know why. I've tried to tweak it. We're just going to go with it. Sometimes it'll pop up questions at the bottom and ask you. Sometimes it just listed a whole bunch. And so then if it's just listing a whole bunch, you just go down there and go one, and the first one's the name, and two, and just list it. Name. And you don't have to take a lot of time. What I've been hearing is this whole process takes between, I've heard, from 11 minutes to 30. So, and when you can see what comes out, you're going to be amazed because it would take a person, I don't know, I want to say years to do it. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. I don't think you could do it. Honestly, I mean, I couldn't do it. Okay. So what comes out? Okay, it's going to come out with a list. So let me go down here. It's going to come out, copy the prompt. Okay, what I was going to say is, okay, if you are like, AI freaks me out, I don't want to tell it all this, give it a fake name, and then you can change the name later. Okay? And always give as much or as little as you want. If you give it some specific things, and I'll talk about that, it's gonna just be richer. Cindy talks about she told it that her dad liked the outdoors. He likes hunting and other things like that. And it gave her stuff that in Florida that was related to the outdoors that it wouldn't have done if she hadn't told it that, right? So it's gonna be, and the more specific you are, the more specific it's gonna be to that person. So it's what it does is then now this is beautiful. I'm gonna tell you, sometimes it doesn't look this beautiful. Sometimes it like puts a whole bunch of them together, but it's gonna give you a list like this. And these are the candidates of what you want. And so basically you say, okay, I want to keep 2, 5, 7, 8, 9. I want to delete or replace or whatever the ones you don't want. So you just tell it, and y'all, you don't have to like write full sentences. All you have to do is say keep and write the numbers that you want to keep, or remove and remove the ones you want to remove. So what you're doing is picking, okay, Kobe doesn't care about, I'm not, just say he says, okay, Kobe, now the tornadoes, I would have never thought about that, but he was the only one to hide during the tornadoes, and we had terrible tornadoes in our area. So when that one came up for him, I was like, oh, I remember the tornadoes. I gotta put that one in his, okay? Katrina, maybe I don't know that at age 3, Katrina really was that big of a deal. So I might say remove 8, because that's not one that hit him, whatever that is. So you tell it which ones, and then what it does is it comes out and it will give you a color coded uh a color coded of timeline of their life, and it's going to say, you can't really read this here, but it's going to say, it might, if you give it personal things, it'll say when the children are born or when they work. This is like when she worked. It's going to say at age, you can see back up here, age 3 was Katrina, right? It's going to it'll write it in a narrative form. So it's really interesting of what it is. And then all you have to do is download the PDF, and then you upload it into that album. And it'll make, right now I have it set. It might not have, beta testers, it may not have done it for you, but I'll do it for you now. It will give you 3 different PDFs, one for the childhood, one for the teen, and one for the adult. So it will give you the 3 different ones now already. And it will do that. That's like the last step. I've fixed that little piece of it, right? So, you know, and it's just, I can't tell y'all how it points out things that are so, like, you might not even think of. And just, it does a beautiful job of what um, the important things in their life would have been. And some things they may or may not think of or thought of, but it still probably had an impact on their life. The last thing I do, um, well, no, maybe not the last, but the next thing is I take that whole timeline and then I ask it to give me a short description for that. Because this timeline is like, could be like 6 pages. So I don't know, I don't want 6 pages up in my album description. So I just say, hey, will you give me a short blurb for my album description for that album? And we're talking about this album that is this first one, The World at the Time. Okay, so then that's kind of the last step. And then, well, actually, the very last step is then I go back and just pull from newspaper.com. I'll take some of the big events, and I will find a couple newspaper articles from where they lived. So when I'm doing John lived in Indiana. I'm looking for Indiana newspapers, and I'm looking for the front page of when the Challenger blew up, right? That's like all of us remember that, right? So I will upload that front page. You could use Google Images of a lot of times the inventions of the times, the VCR, all those things. I'll just look for Google an image of that. If you have your own files, you might have something. So that's what I piece all that together for that. The World at the Time, which is this album right here. So this from here on, I'm going to go pretty quick. This is going to be the albums It's the same format as last. It tells you a little bit of things of what you want to include, and then on the right is the three types of questions: a fact question, experience question, and a meaning question. And that's something you can ask them if they're still living. You can ask somebody that knew them when they were living, or you can just kind of ask yourself, just things to think about what you want to include in these albums. I ended up saying, about 13 to when they graduated from high school is there these teen years. Yes, I know a lot of people go to college at 18, but that's pretty much where I started adulthood, okay? Uh, So pretty much that's where I divided this. My mom's, you can see this is the you can see couple pictures Elvis because she talked about that. American Bandstand. These are articles that I found and different things. So these were all things that most of these things came out of the prompt. The next one is hobbies, sports, and interest. And another thing I want to say is my whole vision of whatever is I wanted to build a structure that anybody can put I wanted it to work for my child, my two children, my parents, my husband, myself. I wanted to work along the things, and all of us look different, right? Our families look different, our stories are different. So I wanted it to look the structure to be the same so that when I go in it, I can easily find what I'm looking for, and two, that anybody else who goes in it knows, okay, this is where I'm going to find this, and this is all going to look about the same for whoever that person is. Now, is everybody's information is going to be different? And usually, once you start nesting and nesting, it's going to look different. But I wanted the overall structure to be the same. So this kind of makes sense. This is my mom's, and I encourage you to share this with. So my mom, for those who don't know, has dementia now. Luckily, I got a lot of her information a few years ago. I interviewed her, so I'm going back to those interviews. But really asking her now, she'll say she really can't answer a lot of the questions. Sometimes she'll surprise you because it's something old and she'll remember this detail and you're like, okay, where did that come from? But what I've done is after I shared this, so my mom, I found, luckily, I don't know how, but if you have somebody who grew up in a small town with a small paper, search the paper. It is unbelievable how much things I found about my mom in the paper. And she wrote for the paper. And I guess she was a narcissist before it was a thing. She wrote about herself in the paper, y'all. So I am like so thankful that I have all this. I have y'all, I can't even tell you how many newspaper articles about my mom. And but anyway, so from that I found out all of her plays that she was in at school. And I found out, basketball, I found out from her yearbook. But what I encourage you to do is to then send it after you've done it. I sent the share link to her siblings, and her siblings, one of her sister was a lot younger than her. So she was in high school, and her sister was like 7. And her sister remembers going to my mom's senior play, and my mom had an axe in her head, and my aunt talked about how it traumatized her for years because of this play. So I'm going back and I'm going to add that to this album about her being in the play and my aunt watching it. So and my aunt, I've interviewed her for 2 hours and she that never came up. So you just never know. So just send it to those people and they can add and correct and all those things. The next one is graduation and education and graduation. And where are they? So we're in teen years. So we're just talking about high school. Were their favorite teachers is a good thing if you can ask them that. What did those years prepare you for? And here's another. This is probably my second favorite thing of this section is yearbooks. They are a gold mine. If you can find now the best is if you can find their yearbooks. So if you can ask them, do you have yearbooks? Get their yearbooks and scan their yearbooks. And I'll tell you some things I found. if you they don't have them, go look. So in North Carolina, North Carolina State Archives has a ton of yearbooks. It's free. You can download the pages for free. So go look. The coolest thing in the state archives, my mom had written to that person who had their yearbooks scanned. So I have what she wrote in somebody else's yearbook. And and so go even if you have the yearbook, I already had her yearbook and I just happened to go in there and found her what she wrote to this friend. So even if you think you have the yearbooks, go check your state archives. Yearbooks is my last and least favorite thing. And that is because one, it's a paid site, and two, they don't let you download. So you have to go in there and snip, take a snip, and it's not as good quality as the others. But it is, if you can't find it anywhere else, you can use it. And here's another trick. I had lots and lots of pages, and you'll see on the left hand of this slide, this is my mom to my mom. And she had pages and pages like this, long, long stories. It told all kinds of stuff that I did not know. Okay, one, it's really hard to read somebody else's handwriting. I can read cursive, y'all, still, but it's really hard to read somebody else's handwriting sometimes, right? It's a lot because I had probably, I don't know, at least 50 pages of this between the yearbooks. So what I did is I just uploaded them all to chat and they summarized. So what are the can you tell me some things out of these pages? And it brought back places that she went on vacation. It talked about, different, it brought out all the key points in here for me without me having to read all of those pages, right? So it's a great, another tool to use is these yearbooks. If you can find a yearbook for teen years, it's absolutely fantastic if they have writing in them. I can't even tell you how much stuff I have found in these yearbooks. Okay, milestones and first. So you're talking teen years. You're looking at first jobs. You're looking at relationships, proms. Uh, in here can be. I do not have a separate spiritual one in this one. I do have it in childhood. I didn't put it here. We're going to see it again next month, but this would be, like a confirmation or anything that happened during the teen years could go there. It could be a driver's license. Any of those things, milestones, first, big moments, all those things go in this folder. This is my mom. You can see her prom. This is one of them's a prom, one of them's a dance in here. I need to resort this, but because I added them together, but that shows you that. And then the last one, adventures and travels. Adventures can be other things. Some people don't travel. But what are the things, it could be ticket stubs, it can be postcards, it can be photos, it can be all those things. What did they do as a teen? And I found in this one in the book, and I had no idea she did not talk about this. And now I can't think of it right now. It might come to me. If somebody knows, they can tell me. But it's not Myrtle Beach. It's another area down there for those of us in the Carolinas. There's another beach down there, and I kept saying, "Are you talking about Myrtle Beach?" And then I went back to my dad and mom and was like, "No, it's called this. I can't remember what it is called now."
Is it
But
Cherry Cove?
no, it's something else.
No.
We had a house at Cherry Cove though. The good guess, but it was something. It's
Mm.
another beach. And anyway, and this pavilion's there. And so then I went back and Googled and found the pavilion that they're all talking in their yearbook about. They're all talking about this pavilion they all went to and danced at. And I found it on Google. And I would never have known because she never talks about that, but it's all in her yearbook that they went there. And so I found that. And then also I found some the newspapers back then said when they went to the lake. So, I mean, there's papers about them being at the lake and all this stuff. So, I had those newspaper articles in here. So, whatever that looks like, that was a great one. This one's Kobe's. I just threw this one in here. Obviously, we had a travel challenge. So I just wanted, so this is his adventures and travel. He has his travel challenge under here. And do I put, and this was a question I got, no, we went to 50 states and 15 countries. Do I have all that in here? No. What I did was I went and I tried to find, if you open this up, it's nested again. And what I did is try to find a picture of him in each of the 50 states, one picture. And then I left a breadcrumb. Cindy loves this word, a breadcrumb of how to go back to that album and see the whole thing. If you want to know more details about our 50 states, then you follow the breadcrumb and go find it. But in this, I don't need, because that would be thousands of pictures, right? Thousands. And so and the same thing here, we homeschooled, so we have a lot of field trips. And so under here I have that his field trips. So he has a lot under there. Uh the next one, oh, I skipped one. So the next one's what comes next. And for me, I just struggle with this. And the reason I was like, in those teen years, there's always this like, what am I going to do next, right? Am I going to go to college? Am I going to go a career? Am I going to go military? And there's always this, what am I going to do next? And how do I get to that decision, right? And so I wanted it separate. I don't know. Maybe I'll change my mind about it. But for now, I think it came out and I really like it. And I'll show you two different ways it came out, but it's like that's such a pivotal time in your life of, what's next, that I thought it needed an album. And I will show you, my mom's doesn't have much. Basically, I found this is the article she wrote about herself about who's who. And she said she was going to school to be a teacher. I never knew she went to school to be a teacher till I read this. And so hers is pretty short. It just has three articles talking about kind of her preparing to go to school, basically these preparing years. And it has a little bit up here about she went on September 13th. She went to college. Okay. I would love to be able to get, why she went that school and stuff, but probably will not. Whereas this is Kobe's. And he visited all of these colleges when we were trying to pick a college. So I put each of his colleges, and yes, I'll probably keep all that in there because where else am I going to put it that it makes sense in my account? I love it here. It fits here. That's all of it because I don't want it anywhere else. But it fits perfectly. So basically, these are all the campus visits that we went on. John's I don't have a picture of it, but John's was he wanted to do the military. His mom really did not wanted him to go to Coast Guard because she thought it was safer. And so basically, he looks back now how they manipulated him to want to go to the Coast Guard. So that story is in his What's Next. I don't have any pictures of that, so I just have a Coast Guard emblem there, and it tells the story of why he went there. Okay, so that's the last album of the teen years, and this is adult. Again, Tammy Joe and Cindy were with me last Monday. Y'all should come to Zoom sometime and y'all get to see me marinate, right? That was the word for this last. All these ideas come and I had to go with it and how to do it. And I finally decided just to put it all in one. And the reason is everybody gets married at a different age at a different time in their adulthood. Everybody has different career choices that come and go. Everybody has, all of these things. And then when do you divide it up? And then even if you divide it up, and your grandchildren sometimes come when you're retired, sometimes they come really early. And I just decided because I wanted the structure all the same, I'm going to put all adulthood into this one. And some other reasons too. So it's all here. So this is from basically 18. So when they go to college on, so it's continuing. If you're still living, this is, you're adding to this, right? So the first one is the world at the time. And again, that one is going to be the same as the other two. So you're already going to have, if you use the prompt, you're already going to have the timeline for it. And then you can see I added a lot more this time to her because she's 82, 83 now. And that's a lot of years, 18 to 83, right? That's a lot's happened in the world. So these are all different articles. Some of these she actually, you can tell the dark ones. See all these dark ones? Those are ones she clipped in her lifetime. So these are actual pages that are scanned that I put in there. And then you can see color TV came out. The computer came when she in her adulthood. These are all, it looks like I have one of them twice in here, but these are front pages of big events in her life. The Beatles, the microwave is in here. The Challenger explosions in here. All of these things. Her dad was mayor for 30 years. Okay, that is local news. That's very personal, but it's still local, right? The school that she grew up in, this is a lot of these first ones up here, burnt to the ground when for her first year in college. So there's articles about that. So all of this is like taking all of those things, and it's great because even if you can find this stuff, regardless if they're living or not. So the next one is the launch. So this can be college, military, first career. It can be all three. And I will show you an example of that. What do they do after high school, basically? So you can see my mom's is on the left, and it has, she went to college, women's college for 2 years, and she also wrote for the Sanford Herald. That was basically her first career, and then she went to college. So both of those are kind of, and she started writing for the paper before she was out of high school, but I still put it here. And so those, I have two nested albums. John's is military. He was in the Coast Guard, then he went to college, then he was in the Army again. Now, I decided to just put all three of these in the launch, even though I could put these later, especially his second army in the his career. But it really, for him personally, he was not a life like I think if he would have retired in the army, I would have probably moved that to his career, right? But he was in there for 4 years. He was 4 years Coast Guard, 4 years Army. So I felt like it still belonged here. But you have to make those little calls, and honestly, in the big scheme of things, it doesn't matter, right? So just put it where it does it. So, what kind under the launch, it could be a college path, a military path, or a work path. Whatever that is, kind of how they started out. The next one is their love story, and this could be a marriage, it could not be a marriage, it could be anything in that, realm. But for my mom, you'll see hers here. It's a little squished up. This is about how they met in high school. I have a yearbook entry from my dad to my mom saying uh, that something like I love you because no, it's you're pretty cool because you love Jesus and your feet don't stink. That was his his little thing to my mom in high school. And so that's how they met. And then if you look under the next one, this next nested, you will find their weddings. They actually have a lot of wedding pictures under here and their honeymoon pictures. They have one honeymoon picture. I think the one showing there is their honeymoon. So that's that. And John's is very different. I don't know why I decided to do it this way, but I did, and I think I'm leaving it. So this is my husband. We got married 2 years ago. And so I just have pictures of like how we met, and then these are kind of in order of, well, they're sort of in order. How we met, some things we did together, adventures we have. That there is, I think, a couple wedding pictures here at the end. It is in order. It's pretty much in order. A couple of these are all the pictures I'm going to include in here. I have hundreds of other pictures of other places, but this pretty much tells our story right here. These little, I don't know how many there are there. You can see, and then in the album description, I just have that. I just have kind of told the story of how we met, a little bit about our journey, and then our wedding. And so probably under mine, I will have all the wedding photos under my story, but do I need it under both? Probably not. So, and he doesn't care as much about it as I do. So for this part, Actually, it's for the next part coming up. I should have skipped this slide, but for this one, well, I used it for this too. Let me tell you, use your facial rec. Facial rec is great. If you have facial rec that you and you love it, put it in the comments that you love facial rec because right now there is a special, so that's a great thing too. But it has saved me so much time because, and I can show, if we have time, I'll show you this to the end or I'll do another video. But what you want to do is like for when I did the love story and I wanted to find pictures of John and I pulled up John's photos, or let's say my mom's, because my mom's is pulled up here. So you can see on the right hand, this is mom's facial rec. So under people, and then under facial rec, I had her pulled up. Then you come into the filter, and then I added my dad. So then only pictures showing are pictures of that have both my mom and dad in them. Now they can have other people also, but it's still going to filter out hundreds and hundreds of photos, right? So then I can scroll through and click on the ones I want to add to their love story, right? And I do the next section you're going to see, I use this all the time. So if I wanted to have pictures of John and his friend Derek, I pulled up John's photos, filtered Derek, and then it pulled up pictures with John and Derek. It's going to save you a lot of time if you use your filters, use your filters. So the next section is family, friends, and mentors. This was when I tweaked. I really love it. So even though, and I want to show you in a minute, even though you've kind of talked about some family before, you might want to talk about them in relation to their adult years. So literally before I got on here, I just was working on my mom's. And in this section, I don't know if it shows here, probably doesn't. I don't have it. But in this section, I have my mom's parents again because my mom's parents they almost had connecting backyards. So in her adulthood, her parents were pretty important in her adulthood relationship. So I wrote a little bit about that they were neighbors. They didn't see each other every day, but they were close, all those things, right? And John's, I'll show you, I included his parents, and I'll talk about that. So just think about people are important. So it could be parents again, children, grandchildren, friends, anybody that's really important in the person's adulthood. And these people could be people who came in and were really important for a season and then weren't for a while. So this is John's and how I did his. And I did his parents, and both of his parents died not young, not when he was a child, but died. Both of his parents are deceased. So I put in there that when they were deceased, and a little bit about their relationship as an adult. Right? He didn't really see them a lot because they lived so far, and that's part of the story. But and kind of what later in life, what are some things that were meaningful to him? I put his siblings and how they helped him through a time in his life in adulthood. I put my kids, I put the kids he claimed. And so that's my kids. And under there they're nested separately because they have two very unique stories of how that all came about. And then I put the in-laws. That may or may not be, but John has insisted that we go see my parents every Sunday for dinner. That was him, not me. And there's a whole little story in there about my dad and teaching him how to do frog mush stew. So it just fit there. So I included. Would I do in-laws for my mom? I'm not going to do it. Not because, they saw my in-laws and not because there's a bad relationship. I just didn't do it. You don't have to, right? And then for John Friends, you can see the first one up here, that's the kids, and it's broken down to the two kids. And then his friends, I broke down even more into battle brothers, so those people with him in Iraq. Then I have mentors and father figures, people that were a big influence on him. The ride and die people in his life, and then his political family. And so, obviously, that's not going to look, that's going to look different for everybody who your friends were, So for me, I'm probably going to have probably a set of creative memories because that was a big part of my life for a lot of years, and I have friends from that period. I'm probably going to have um, uh, forever friends probably will be in here. I have college friends that I'm still in touch with, so I'll probably have an album for them. And so, everybody's is going to look different how they look, but who they are, do you still keep in touch with them? All of those things in there. And it's a great way to put, sometimes you have photos you don't know what to do with. This is a great place for those because you have some friend photos and you're like, I don't know what to do with it. It's a great place for them, right? Because um, they're your friends. Um, and that's just a little bit about, sub album. You can do sub albums, nested albums, for children, grandchildren, um, you know, mentors, all those kind of things. Homes, I did in childhood. I did it again here. This is another reason why I didn't split it up because some people live in the same house for their whole adult life, like my mother mostly did. Some people, hey, look at Sherry, right? Some people move around 10 times in a month, right? I mean, everybody's different. So, in why, I like having all here. I said this before, but go to street maps. I'm gonna do it. I haven't done it yet. I'm gonna do a step by step, but use street maps and go. The house probably still there. Could be still there, not probably, but go back and get it if you don't have a photo and you can find an address. For my mom, I ended up finding an address in a telephone book from the 60s, and it had the address, and then I went and found the street view of the house. And if they have multiple homes, if you have somebody who might have a vacation home or something like that, that could go here. All those things. Have a few pictures maybe in here of the inside of the house. If you find those, it's always fun to look at some old inside the house. If you know that that's the house, put some of those in there too. Um, so all those things. The next one's community clubs, what she's known for. I changed that to just community clubs. I'm trying to make it uh, so that, I don't have to change I can copy and paste and not change the pronouns for if it's a boy, if it's John or, if it's Claire or Kobe or whatever. So I'm trying to like change all these so I just changed this to community and clubs. So kind of what they are involved in as an adult. This is hers in her first part of her uh, uh, adulthood. She was really big in tennis when her best friend died and she never played tennis again. So that's part of that story in this album is about that. So I have some early pictures of her playing tennis. Then she didn't play anymore, and so that's the reason why. I'm sure. I mean, she never told me that, but it makes sense now. And then second was she was in part of the women's club in her little town and lots of articles. So if they are in an organization, go search the newspaper and see if you can find anything. If you know that they were in whatever that town, they might not have their name, but they might have some little things of what happened during the years they were in that. Another little piece of to find it. Uh, Career and purpose in retirement, right? So if they're still living and still working, you're just going to work on their career part, or the purpose part. For my mom, she stayed home. There's one article about her staying home, so that's in that album. And I'm going to write a little story about that. Her mom stayed home with her kids. She stayed home with her kids, and a little bit about that. And then, retirement. My dad had a retirement party and all those things. So that will go that goes in his. And then for John, was building the Veterans Life Center. So there's lots of, I have probably 1,000 pictures, but I just went in kind of every step of the way, one or two. So this is kind of, you can just look at this. This is a snapshot of it, right? I don't need every single photo that I have of the Veterans Life Center to tell that this is how it happened, right? And then narrative is about that, right? And I can leave a breadcrumb, right, to go and you can learn more and more and more and see hundreds of photos, but you don't really need to see that right here. So The last one is Adventures in Travel. And again, separate from teen years, childhood is that one. And you can see here, I haven't finished. These are all my mom's scrapbooks, and I just pulled them in here. I'm going to work on this about some different places that she's been in her life. And I've shown this before in previous ones, but not every. I know I have some new people. So for my husband has zero pictures. It literally from probably 18 till he met me. I really don't think he has any pictures. So, and he didn't meet me till later. So, but he's traveled with the service a lot of countries. So what I did to make it a little bit more interesting is I went and found flags. He listed all the countries he went to, and I went and found flags from each of the countries. And then I put, you can see kind of in the middle right there, I marked it on the map. You can't really see it because all these they're little islands, but and put on a map all the places that he had traveled to so that it doesn't look like he hasn't been anywhere when he has. So that's kind of a different way. So that's it for me. This is so I want to encourage you to try to do complete it should say yeah. So the first 2 weeks work on the teen years of the person you're doing, and then the week 3 and 4 we work on the adult part of that. And, it's not like this is a project that's kind of, you're always going to find stuff and add to it, whatever, but at least get started creating those albums. And so, do I have any questions? We have a few minutes. I know I went really fast because it's a lot of information. I will send out a link to the recording after this, and I have some resources that I will be able to send too. So basically, you can just copy and paste that entire prompt. And I encourage you to, I will probably do another, I'll ask you maybe 2 questions, and then I will send you, once you've answered those 2 questions, I will send you all those resources. So I basically only want you to watch it either live. If you've watched it live, you can check that off and then answer a question. So, do we have any
There is
questions?
a question in the chat. If we have time, can you show how you use facial recognition?
Okay, yeah. So I'll just do that. Okay. And Tammy Joe, did you have a
Tammy
question?
Joe has one.
So in your mom's album, you had her wedding, your dad and your mom's wedding. Do you copy that same album and put it in your dad's album then? Or do you create a whole different one?
I usually have all of it somewhere, and then I have a little bit different. Like in my dad's, I'll have all of his family and stuff, and my mom's, I'll have all her family. And then I might have an album somewhere with all of it. Does that make sense? And but they're
Yeah.
all so you can go to all of them, but I kind of tweak them a little bit to each. They're not exactly the same. Uh,
So the wedding one is different in both albums.
mhm. You could do the
Okay.
same, but I just do it a little bit different.
Okay.
So, but you could do it the same. You could copy and do it exactly the same. But I kind of would, hers is kind of her point of view, and his is kind of his point of view, which is a little bit different, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So it's, a little bit different. Any other questions before I want to go to, I'm going to turn off the recording before I go to the my account. I just don't want my account recorded just because of the names on it and privacy, but I don't mind. I'll go in and show you how to do that after I turn off the recording. So does anybody else have a question for the recording, and then I'll go do that?
There is one, but I cannot find it. Oh, here we go. You can have photos in multiple out places, but you cannot have an album in multiple places. You have to create, oh, it's not a question. You'll have to create a second nested album and copy
Hmm.
the images over. Yeah, I'm sorry, that wasn't a question.
Yes, yeah.
Good
That's
job,
kind of
Jill.
goes along with what Tammy Joe just said, right?
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
you can
Yeah.
have multiple photos, and I'll show you when I turn off the recording how that works because it's actually kind of cool. But yeah, you have to create a new album. You can't have, linked. At some point that may come. I don't know.